Hey everybody, it's me, Megs, and this is gonna be another video to the series about influencers and being an influencer in the whole influencing world of YouTube and things like that. So here is kind of like, I wouldn't really say these are tips, but my experiences and what I've seen over the years. I've been doing YouTube and social media probably over 10 years. I actually been on social media since I was in high school. My first accounts that I had were back in the day before even YouTube was Facebook and MySpace. So I've been on social media for a while now. So I know a lot of questions that people tend to ask as far as like being an influencer and on YouTube and social media is like, well, how do you make a living? How are people able to be on YouTube as their career or as their full-time job? How does that work? How does that happen? For me, it didn't happen like maybe how it's happened for other people. My able to kind of like see an income with social media didn't happen until probably like 2016. Before then, I wasn't really making an earning like that here on YouTube, as far as an earning where it's like, oh, okay, I'm doing all right, I can do this and I can do that. So I started in 2009. So back in 2009, one of the main ways for me, and I'm speaking from a black influencer's point of view, because being a black influencer, getting, you know, earnings and sponsorships and things is a little different from maybe, you know, our other sisters here on YouTube. It's different because I remember I applied to the partner program back in 2000, probably like early 2010, because I started my channel late 2009. And only thing that I knew of back then was the partner program, and even then I didn't really understand what the partner program was. I just thought the partner program was that I was allowed to have longer videos. I was like, oh, I want longer videos and I want a cute banner, I want my page to be a little more customized. So I thought that's really what it was. I didn't really know it was as in-depth as it was. But even before I applied to the partner program, I already started to see a couple of my videos get this notification about monetizing. And back then I didn't really know what monetizing was. I was only 20, so I was like, well, I guess. So it was like one button you just click, and then like all of a sudden I had ads probably on like 3 videos, but I didn't really know. And then I applied to the partner program. When you applied to the partner program back then, it's just like all of your videos would get monetized, or some of them. But back then, some of your videos did have to go through a whole process before they get monetized. It would take probably like 3 days before it pops up with an ad or something like that. So back then, I didn't really understand what the ads meant until now, okay? So back then in 2009, 2010, I was making videos and I had no clue I was making money because I didn't know. There wasn't really a thing where it was, you know what, it probably was and I just didn't know. Back then there really wasn't a tab or an area in the YouTube area where you could see your analytics, where you could see like how much you're earning really like that. I didn't see that until probably like 2013 or something like that. Or I started paying attention to it, because, you know, I started, you know, YouTube genuinely just because, you know, because people were asking me to, and plus I needed a hobby. I needed something fun to do for myself to pass time where I was living at the time. So a whole year passed, and I get an email from Google saying, hey girl, you need to collect your funds. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was like the most money I've ever seen in my little, you know, 20-year-old years, because during that time I was in school full-time. I was in the RN program, and at that time I was really confused on what I wanted to do. Where I was living, I could not get a job. It was like minimum opportunities as far as jobs there, because where I was living in the high desert at the time. I did not drive, so that was like difficult, because it's like if you don't really drive, it's going to be a little difficult to branch out and go further to find jobs. And so yeah, I couldn't really drive that well. I didn't get my license until I was 21, girl. I know I'm late. We're like, what? Yeah, girl. So I didn't have a job. So me getting that first YouTube check was a true blessing for me, because I was really struggling in school. It was times where I could not afford books. I would have to drop classes because the book would be too much or too expensive. There would be times when me and Ashley had nothing to eat. We was like, what we gonna eat? Of course, we lived with our father, and we had food in the house. But sometimes there'll be those days where we're just home alone and we're like, we're hungry. We want something to eat, and we didn't want nothing in the house. Like, it wasn't like a type of thing where we was just starving, girl. Okay, it wasn't like that. Okay, so it was around Christmas time I got that email. I think it was like the end of November, beginning of December. I got the email to collect my funds, girl. And that was the first time that I was really able to see that, oh wow, I can actually provide for myself and make things easier around here in the house. Because before then, I didn't know that people were making money. Because I remember back in the day, I had made a video about like, oh, you know, no one's making money on here, like you can't make money here. And then someone commented, like a bunch of people commented and said, yes you can, all the other girls, they're making thousands and thousands of dollars. And I didn't really understand at the time, me being 20, because that wasn't my reality. It wasn't what was going on my channel. And I know I can speak for probably a lot of other black influencers. We wasn't making no money, girl. It wasn't really any opportunities really like that to make any money back then. So fast forward, one of the major ways to earn money here on YouTube is through your videos and through ads. So with how the YouTube program works, it does work with, even back then, you have to have a certain amount of views every month and a certain amount of watch time every month, and you apply to the partner program, and then once you get accepted, then you get ads that run on your channel. So that is one of the ways that, you know, you can make money. And so for me, that was one of the ways that I had made earnings here on my YouTube channel. It wasn't anything like, you know, worthy of, you know, living off of, because I did have a full-time job and I did work part-time all throughout being on YouTube until 2016, where it was like, oh, okay, I'm comfortable. But before then, it wasn't really like that. So I feel like a lot changed since 2009, but as far as being a black influencer, we're not making, well, I wouldn't say we're not, but a lot of us, in comparison to what the other girls are doing, it's like we're here and they're there. In comparison to what the other girls are doing, it's still a little behind for us. But I will say it's gotten a lot better, girl. It's gotten a lot better. And I will say it's gotten a lot better as far as makeup brands recognizing us as, you know, we use products too, as far as reaching out for sponsorships. And I really do believe that came from Jackie, because she spoke up, and I feel like with her speaking up, it had really a big effect on these companies to reach out to us, some of us influencer girls, like, hey, we're here too. And I will say that made a really big difference, because I definitely can tell that there's a difference as far as working with makeup brands, since, you know, a whole change has happened with that since Jackie spoke. So I'm like, thank you, Jack girl. So I will say that, because I remember me and her and a couple of other influencers, we were at a panel. I think it was like the makeup show or something, like it was like 2013, 14, something like that. We were on a panel, and we all felt like we couldn't really speak up about how it is about being a black influencer, and, you know, the opportunities that we didn't get that the other girls were getting. So things have definitely changed now, for sure. So ads is one of the major ways. Another major way is sponsorships, companies reaching out to one to work with you. That is probably one of the biggest ways that a lot of people earn money too. It's not just through ads, because a lot of influencers aren't on YouTube. They're on Instagram and they're on Facebook. And Instagram isn't monetizing video now, but Facebook is monetizing their video. But a lot of companies will reach out to want to work with you, and then you're probably like, okay, so if a company reaches out and wants to work with me, how do I charge them if they're not charging, or what's a good rate? It all really depends, because even me, I still struggle with that, as far as like, okay, they asked me for my rate, what is too much and what is too little, because you don't want to kind of like bust your bubble and like end up not working with the company at all, because you went too high and it just seemed a little bit overboard, which has happened because a lot of companies, they don't have the budget, to spend maybe on what you request. So for me, what I tend to do is when a company wants to work with me, I ask, what's the budget? Okay, you ask what's the budget first. You let them tell you, because I've worked on the other side of, you know, the beauty industry as far as working with the company and reaching out to influencers. And sometimes the company might have a higher budget for you than what you told them. And that's happened to me too as an influencer. Like, I've told them one rate and then probably spoke to someone else like, oh no girl, they gave me whatever. I'm like, really? So I messed up. So always ask them, what is the budget for this collaboration, so they can tell you what their budget is. And if you're not comfortable with that amount, then you can go up or down or whatever you feel comfortable with doing. But I've noticed that companies have their own budget, and oftentimes they let you say what you feel comfortable with getting paid, and they're like, okay. So yeah, I have definitely experienced that for sure. And I've noticed too, a lot of the Black owned companies are willing to pay you with your worth, okay? And I really do appreciate that. I've had some companies where they didn't pay me what I was worth, but still I took the opportunity because I wanted the opportunity to work with the company, because I was a genuine fan of the company. And mind you, everything isn't always about being paid, because you cannot get too tied up in that. You can be about your money, but don't be all about your money. Like, there's a clear difference, because you can see what's happened to some people here on the YouTube when they're all about just their money, okay? And you know what I'm saying. Be about your money, but don't be all about your money. You know, take opportunities because the opportunity is there. Everything doesn't grant you having to get paid, okay? But if you are noticing that you're starting to get sponsors, you know, sponsored content, and companies are willing to work with you, you definitely do have to know your worth. And if they are asking of you a lot, then you can ask of them for something in exchange as well, because oftentimes it's not really fair for someone to just give you free product just because it doesn't really do much for the influencer, because pretty much everything an influencer does is like you're unintentionally driving a sale. It could be like the littlest thing, like if I use an edge control brush, somebody gonna want to know where you got that edge control brush, and if you say this place, then that you just sold an edge control brush without really knowing it. So I know a lot of influencers get a lot of slack for constantly, you know, doing sponsored content, but the key to doing sponsored content, you have to make sure that it fits and that you are genuine with the collaboration. Is it something that you would really use or try out? Don't just do anything just to do anything, okay? You have to be very mindful of that too. So if you're collaborating, make sure it fits with the content that you're already doing. Okay, if you're a beauty channel and all of a sudden you're talking about a gaming app, I mean, you could get away with it, but it's kind of like, I could see that on a gaming channel, you know, you get what I'm saying? You just make sure that it fits if you choose to, and spread your content out so that it's not like back to back. Sometimes it's difficult to spread the content out back to back, because if you are working with multiple companies and they have the same dates as far as when they want you to produce the content, that's pretty difficult. And I feel like one of the most irritating things for me when I do collaborate with brands is that sometimes they want you to make certain content without giving you the freedom of creative control. And a lot of times they don't really know. They have an idea of what they want because they want this specific kind of content to go on their page and it works for their page. And oftentimes an influencer's content might look a little more commercially or a little more tailored or a little more straight laced than normal because it's being put on their channel and the company's channel, and it's being pushed out on web through ads. Your content is their ads that they're pushing out, so it has to be a little different. So when you do work, unfortunately, when you do work with some companies, it is a little bit more, you know, commercially, you know. I mean, it is what it is. And, you know, it is like that because you're temporarily working for someone else. It's not really like, you know, you're doing what you want to do. You're their employee, their contracted employee for the month or however long that sponsorship is. Now, I know some of you are like, Okay, so you have your ads coming in. You're noticing that you're getting, you know, sponsorships or collaborations every month. How are you able to live off of that? Me personally, it didn't happen for me that way. The road was rough. I did work part-time and I had a full-time job for 2 years, from 2014 to 2016, but before then I worked part-time. I wasn't able to live off of any of this, not comfortably. Like, it did help with bills, absolutely, but it was rough, especially me living on my own, because once Ashley moved, it was rough because I didn't have anyone splitting the rent with me anymore. So it was really hard, me trying to make YouTube videos and working part-time and things like that. So I will say the road was rough, but things did actually get better once I started to work full-time. So I was able to have 2 incomes put together, and I was like super straight, like comfortable. And that way I was able to save a lot of money. So in 2016, things really flipped and you know, flipped and fumbled for me, because not fumbled, but I was able to make an earning just like as a full-time regular job, you know, on YouTube. So how are you able to do that? Keep your bills really low. Do not go out going crazy with stuff. Make sure your bills are really low and you don't live beyond your means when it comes to certain stuff. Don't be trying to keep up with the Joneses, you know, all the time. No, it's cool to treat yourself with X, Y, and Z once you get paid, and you know, things like that, and everything else is straight, but don't go crazy. So with your earnings, you kind of, before you decide if you want to do YouTube full time, you have to make sure that, for me, this is how I did it. When I was renting, I made sure that my YouTube earnings covered my rent, so I would have a place to live. And then any other little sponsorship that I did have, it would cover whatever little bills. But when I was renting, I only had like rent and like 3 other bills. So my bills were super low. And this isn't like a reality for everybody, but I had really no bills, because where I was living at, I wasn't paying utilities or nothing. I wasn't paying no water, I wasn't paying electricity. All I had was kind of like my rent, cable, internet, phone bill, and I think at the time I didn't even really have a car note. I had a car note, but it was like super low. But my car notes have been just low anyway, because that's how I just roll. That's a whole nother video. But keep your bills low if you are first starting out, trying to dabble out on, you know, branching out on, you know, doing YouTube or social media full time. You have to make sure that you're receiving the monthly earnings that is probably, I would say, double of what your rent and other bills are. That's how I thought of it when I was renting, and still how I think about it. You have to make sure it's like over what you're, you know, what you're bringing in as far as what you're paying out. So you don't want to be caught out here like just barely, you know, getting through. You want to be able to put some money away and do things that way, girl. Okay, it's just too much. That was a mouthful. But yeah, you get what I mean. You just want to be really careful of that, and definitely save. Don't overspend. So yeah, in 2016 is when I really seen a difference, because I remember I had got the news that I was being laid off, girl, from my full-time job. And you know, I kind of saw it happening. I did see it happening because there were a lot of changes going on with the company, and I was like, okay, let me get prepared, let me see what I can do. I was trying to figure out, like, do I want to go back to work again? You know, do I want to just chill? And I will say YouTube was definitely a blessing for me in 2016, because when I got the news of me being laid off, it was just out of nowhere. It was very random, but then again, I knew it was coming, so I was already preparing to put some money away, and I definitely did that. I had a great savings to where I was able to chill, because at the time I wasn't really sure if I was, like, you know, gonna go back to work again as far as full time, because I did enjoy working full time. I still do. I still do. But YouTube was definitely a blessing during that time, because if I didn't have YouTube as a backup, I don't know what I would have done. It saved me in a lot of ways. So I know a lot of people are like, well, what would you do if YouTube went away today? You're just gonna get another job, girl. You're just gonna get a job. You know, it's really not that serious. But then again, I understand how it could be scary for some if this is all they know. So with that being said, being on YouTube, I feel like it is a substantial way of earning money as far as making a living and being comfortable, but it is a bit iffy sometimes. Like, say if your YouTube check is late, you know, you need to make sure you have some savings going on. If, you know, a company is late paying you, which has happened many times, like a lot of times to me, you need to make sure you have a backup as far as what you're going to do. Are you going to be able to pay your bills if, you know, something like that happens? Or if a company just decides not to pay you at all. If you get sick, you can't film, you know, do you have some savings set up? And, you know, it definitely does help, even though I said in the previous video to have a support system, like someone who would be willing to help you out if need be. I do have my dad who's willing to help out if any emergency does happen, because I haven't had to ask him for anything. But it is good to have that, but be able to avoid that if necessary. You don't want to have to, but having your savings set up for emergencies definitely will work in your favor. Okay. Also, I know you're probably wondering, like, well, how do you get companies to work with you? Do you reach out to them? Do you need a manager? Oftentimes they email you if they want to work with you, and sometimes you can have a manager reach out to companies and negotiate deals with you, and that works also. But as far as like getting to work with companies to collaborate with you, I feel like for me, it didn't start happening with me as far as collaborating with companies. Even back then it was different, because companies weren't really looking to YouTubers as far as an advertisement kind of like collaborative thing. I didn't start collaborating here and there. It was very sparse. When I say it was sparse, it was super sparse, like literally like nothing. I think I was probably around 80,000 to 100,000 subscribers during that time when I actually started to have like one company reach out to me to want to work with me. But in today's world, I feel like it doesn't really matter how many followers or subscribers you have. A lot of it has a lot to do with how your content looks, and you do have to have a decent amount of following, and I would say at least 10,000 to start to work with companies, even just to send you free things. And then if they start to actually request you to do certain things, then you can say, what's the budget? And if they say, hey, we don't have a budget for this, but we would like to build a relationship with you in order for you to get paid down the line, that definitely works, because I've done that too. So yeah, definitely from my experience working on the other side of the beauty industry, like working with a beauty company, a lot of times it's not even about how many followers you have. It is about how many followers you have, but some of them, they don't really care about how many followers you have, because oftentimes they don't have the budget to pay the big dogs, you know, the money. So they look for people who have a smaller following, which is still fine. So I really think it's really cool, because in a way everybody wins. You don't always have to rush to have like so many followers, because it's enough room for everybody, and different companies are looking for different things. So I will say definitely overall, in order to kind of like work with companies and to monetize your videos, the content definitely has to be good and consistent. Okay, it has to be good and consistent. And you know, sometimes on YouTube, I will say, as far as like being a YouTube partner for so many years, there are seasons where your content views will dip and your earnings will dip. So you have to like really be mindful of that and not get too much in your feelings about, oh my gosh, my content's dipping, my views are dipping. Because everyone has a season or a time span where it's like people's views dip and they go up and their views dip. This isn't true for everybody. I know it's true for me, where certain times of the year my views dip and my earnings dip on YouTube. So that's, again, you do have to be prepared for that and have backup savings, things like that. So I think that is all I have to add with that. If I missed anything, please let me know. If you have any questions, let me know. Also, I forgot to ask, if you're an influencer and you want to make some coin, there are all kinds of like websites that you can go on that have sponsorships that you can apply for. So it's not necessarily that you always need to reach out to the companies like yourself. You can just go on these websites and apply to the campaigns, and like if they pick you up, then they pick you up. You don't always have to have a manager. So those websites are down in the description below for you to check out. If you're an influencer and you want to collaborate with other brands, they're down below. Okay, so this video was just from my experience. Everything from my experience isn't Bible or anything, because there are still some things that I don't know, and there's still some things that I need to learn, and there's still some things that I'm currently going through too, like as far as like, oh, I didn't know that, I should probably talk to these people like this. So a lot of this influencer thing is really trial and error. You learn along the way. Everyone, you know, they don't tell you everything. There isn't a book that tells you how to do a lot of this. There is a lot more information out now about how to go about stuff that I am definitely grateful for, but along the way you definitely do learn about business side of it and things like that, because a lot of the business side of it is really stressful. That's a whole nother video, girl, but I'm blabbering now. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer them, and hopefully that answered some of them, because girl, I wasn't making an earning off of YouTube at all. I was just genuinely here because I actually love to make content and be here. But being able to make a living off of what you do is an absolute blessing for me, because I don't know where I would be if I didn't have, you know, YouTube, because YouTube and social media has definitely been something that's made me very happy with connecting with all of you guys, and be able to see a kickback from that is a definite plus, but it's not all of, you know, the perks. Okay, so yeah, thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later.